Thanks, Diana, for making it. This is full house. We have all our speakers here. Very happy to have all of you here today. We do go live in the next 3 minutes. The session flow, I think it's, if everybody can switch on their cameras, if you can hear me, we can probably wave at each other just say hello to everybody. I don't think there's going to be a lot of exchange before we start. Sujin, are you sharing the screen? Okay, brilliant. Okay, so hello everybody, thanks for making time. This is the team, this is the people presenting. We have Diana Morris from UNESCAP. She would be presenting about her portfolio and talking about the challenges with her portfolio and how they're overcoming it. We have Ishani Padiaguru, who is the Vice President at the National Development Bank, Sri Lanka. Diana, you'll probably meet her on the ground next time you're traveling to Sri Lanka, because Diana is, and her team is working in Sri Lanka a lot, so probably we'll meet there. So Ishani would share her experiences about, treading the path of developing sustainable landscape, sustainable financing instruments, and what does it really take. We have Cambodia GDGI team, who would be talking about the work that GDGI is doing on the ground, and then we have Terry Kim, who's giving the GDGI sustainable finance perspective with the trust fund that we've set up in Luxembourg. I think that is more or less the flow that we have. We have an hour. We would have roughly about 12 to 13 minutes per speaker or per group of speakers, because I know that the Cambodia team has 2 people speaking. So we'll take the presentation part from Samadi, and then the Q&A session. Shomi would participate, of course, with the support by Samadi. Ishani would be taking the questions directly at the panel session, so not expecting a presentation there, and Diana would be answering all the questions with the presentation. So that's more or less the flow that we have. If you have any questions, we have a minute. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at the moment.
I will only jump in during the panel discussion, right? So there will be presentation session, and then panel discussion session will be open, and you will throw questions to the panel.
Exactly. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
I had a similar question. For the first question that you gave to me, I have a short presentation, and the second one will be a panel discussion, right? I won't include that in the presentation.
Yes. Okay. So the way we do it is we start with your presentation and then follow it up with a question. So we start the question with you. Brilliant.
Great.
Okay. I'm joined here by Jie Ming and Sujin Zhang, who are helping us with the session, and there's also Mudaffar joining in from Jordan team to help us with the session. So we all covered. I think we go live in a minute or 2, and then we can start. Is that all okay? Brilliant. Thanks.
Wilshan, will we do our own presentations sharing, or I sent it, but happy to share it.
Thanks, Diana, for that question. Sorry, I did not reply back to your email. So you will need to share it from your screen. Thanks, Diana. Appreciate that. All right, guys, we are ready. Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to the session on sustainable finance themes in Asia. We are hereby joined by my friends and colleagues from a number of organizations. We'll be joined by Diana Morris from UNESCAP. We have Ishani Padiaguru, who's the Vice President with the National Development Bank. We have Shomi Kim, who's the Country Director, Cambodia, and Sat Samadi, who's leading the sustainable finance work from on the ground, supporting Shomi and her team. We're joined by Terry Kim, who will be presenting the GDGI work on sustainable finance and also talking about a trust fund that we set up with Luxembourg. So without further ado, we go straight into the session flow. We'll be starting with a presentation, with a video by His Excellency Ban Ki-moon, and then followed by that, we have a few presentations and then panel discussion. We have roughly 1 hour. We try to stick to that timeline, and I might have to request the speakers to keep to their time. I would give signals around, when 3 minutes are left and close to the session time end. We start with the video then. Over to you, Suji.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to welcome all of you to the 7th Annual Global Green Growth Week. I speak to you today with a sense of urgency because our one and only planet is facing a crisis of unprecedented proportions. The theme for this year, fast-tracking transformative climate action, underscores the grave and urgent situation. For many years, I have been emphasizing a simple truth about the climate crisis. There is no plan B because there is no planet B either. The opportunity to save the planet is not for the distant future. Now is the time. We need everyone to join and help tackle the climate crisis, and the policies and solutions need to meet the urgency and severity with boldness and innovativeness. The year 2023 was marked yet again with record-breaking temperatures and severe weather events. To keep global temperatures below the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold and avert the worst, we must act swiftly and boldly. Therefore, I'm proud that Global Green Growth Week brings together policymakers, thought leaders, investors, and innovators from the public and private sectors from all over the globe to discuss solutions to the climate crisis. And I'm also excited that there will be a special spotlight on young people and their pivotal role in a greener future. Much like the least developed countries and small island developing states, young people will be the most impacted despite having contributed to the problems the least. They therefore have every right to contribute to the solutions, and their creativity and passion will be invaluable assets. With the conclusion of the first global stocktake, discussions to operationalize loss and damage and other important issues, this year's COP28, which is just weeks away, will be critically important, and I hope the Global Green Growth Week will prove to be a helpful stepping stone to build momentum, hone ideas, and much more. The challenges before us are immense, but so is our collective potential. Let us seize this moment and work together to fast-track transformative climate action. Together, we can secure a safer, greener, and more sustainable world for ourselves and for generations to come. I wish you my best wishes for very productive discussions. Thank you.
Well, that is our President and Chair. Very inspiring speech, really. He motivates us almost every day. He's the reason why we come to work and work relentlessly on the mission that we are working on. We would start with a bunch of presentations. We start with Terry. Terry, if you could please share your screen and start with your presentation. This presentation will be followed by a presentation by Samadi, and then by Diana, and then we get into the bunch of questions. So over to you, Terry.
Sure. I hope everyone can hear me clear and loud. Thank you very much for joining this session. Just to introduce myself a bit, my name is Terry Kim. I'm a Sustainable Finance Officer at GGI. I'm covering Asia. Good to have you in this presentation. So I'm going to introduce a bit on the Global Trust Fund on Sustainable Finance Instrument, which is one of the GGGI's core initiative that was formed with the government of Luxembourg in the context of bond market in Asia. Just to begin with, we know the context. We know that only 10% or less than 10%, I would say, emerging economies or countries account for those percentages. And we know that these capital markets need to be developed in the context of sustainability. And certainly there are challenges of developing all these bond markets, especially when it comes to thematic or even non-thematic like sustainability linked bond, which I'm going to explain a bit later. That needs to be also developed. We do have certain challenges. One is the policy remaking. The second one is the gaps between among all the institutions involved. And the last one, most importantly, is the market barrier we have in terms of the government securities framework and regulatory issues. Given that GGGI has a vast experience, especially in Asia, in Vietnam, the starting point of this Global Trust Fund was actually when GGGI team started to work with the various teams to achieve this first bond issuance in Vietnam. Is a local currency bond, and in Vietnam, it's a $75 million equivalent. So our GGGI team, we gave technical assistance to all the parties involved. And as a result of this, we government of Luxembourg and GGGI initiated a kind of collaboration to form what is called a Global Trust Fund. So here is the thing. One of the core objectives of this Global Trust Fund is to enhance, number one, policy frameworks. Number two, enhance the market capacity. Number three is the thematic bond issuances itself. And the last one is, of course, knowledge sharing. So all these account for technical assistance we give in Asia. And we do expect the result of about 400,000 green jobs to be available in this market. A certain number of emissions, CO2 emissions reduced. And we have other objectives listed here as well. We do have other implementation partners here. And that has to be related to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We call it UN SDGs. That's linked to reduction of the greenhouse gases and increased green jobs, number of green jobs. So over the next 4 years, GGGI will enhance the green finance ecosystem in about 10 developing countries in Asia by training about 400 sustainable finance experts and providing the support up to about 10 to 15 kind of potential bond issuers. So we expect about 5 to 10 thematic bond issuances in the coming 2 to 3 years, raising about $2 billion equivalent, earmarked for specifically for nationally determined contribution targets. Just a briefly on the governance structure. So we do have the trust fund board that consists of the government of Luxembourg, which consists of also 3 ministries plus GGGI as a team. So this board is going to approve what is called the engagement concept note for the bond issuers to actually the plans to be actually to materialize into action plan in collaboration with, of course, program management unit. We do have a team, dedicated teams consisting of program manager and our MT management team. And we do have technical unit. So this technical unit has myself, and lastly, we have support unit. So these are just the operations cycle. In the interest of time, I will not go into all the details. Step number 1, of course, we are done with it. Setup of the fund. We do have annual planning, so we plan for all the actions to be done at the beginning of the year for the program to be implemented. That's step number 3. So all these program implementation will involve the capacity building and the knowledge sharing of the green financing ecosystem.
Terry,
So-
last 3 minutes for your presentation, please.
Yes, sure. So we do have the fund closing targets. So you see in the initial stage, we have about 400 sustainable finance experts to be trained, about $2 billion to be leveraged. That's something that I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to skip that. And this is the most important slide, but I'm not going to spend more on it. So we do have already like 5 countries approved for these sustainable financing front. So we do expect a number of issuances to come, as you can see here, be it a government or private sector, it's all available. If you have any question on the program or the eligibility criteria as to what kind of issuers are eligible for this sustainability bond, or we call it a green social sustainability bond, in short, GSS bond, just let me know. I'm happy to address those questions. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry. Important messages here. I mean, for all the participants joining, that GTGI has this trust fund, which is live, and we are executing a number of projects using the trust fund. So any of our member countries, please let us know if the sustainable finance programs of interest to you. It also has a component of around capacity building, which is also an important factor, and we're very happy to support our member countries in taking up these projects. As you notice, it's quite an ambitious project with strong commitments to the donors, and we are on our way to already have a pipeline getting developed using the trust fund. We'll move ahead to the second presentation. This is coming from our country program, which is actually being done in partnership with UNESCAP. We have both UNESCAP and GTGI present today. For this presentation, I'd like to invite Samadi to come in and present his set of slides. Over to you, Samadi.
Thank you, Gulshan, and hi everyone. You see my screen. So,
if you can make it full screen, please, that'd be helpful.
Pardon.
If you can make the screen full screen, it's currently in the presentation mode.
Okay, 1 minute.
It's not in the presentation mode.
I don't know how to do this one. Wait.
Okay. You see the little icon there? Okay. Right hand corner. Yeah. Come down. Okay. Left, on the left, you see that little icon there?
Sorry, it blocked by 1 minute. Blocked by the tool. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Okay.
Excellent.
So thank you so much, Gulshan and everyone. So my slide is a bit long, but I will not go that long because I will go very just overview of the presentation. So first of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Samdi. I'm a senior officer at Global Green Growth Institute in Cambodia. So, and I also support my country rep on this implement of the bond in Cambodia. So first, I would like to begin with the objective of the bond acceleration program that we're having implemented in Cambodia. So the aim is to provide consistent financial support on green, sustainable links bonds in Cambodia. So it's about enabling financing flow to Cambodia market in order to support the government net zero projects related to climate priority in Cambodia. And this program have been targeted at the moment is 4 thematic areas, sustainable priorities on energy, smart agriculture, clean transportation, and green building. And the technical the benefits to the issuer, the potential issuer that we are working with them is mainly on technical assistance support and also investment support and financial support on that we have a co-sharing support among our consulting partner. And we have the comprise of 5 processes. First is eligibility, about screening, shortlisted, due diligence, investment committee review, implementation phase, notification of the elected applicant, and approval from the consultative committee. And this is, you can see the component of the committee that we implement this program in Cambodia. So we have chaired by Security Exchange Regulator of Cambodia, and we have SCAP, GGIs, ADB, and CGIF and Garanco as a consortium partner. And so far, this is the main guidance that we're working toward to achieve the bond frameworks in Cambodia is green bond principle and also sustainability bond principle and sustainable links bond principle that we really follows the ICMAS, CBI, and also ASEAN bond framework. And this is the practical that we worked so far in order to select, you know, the potential issuers on for our program. So we focus on 3 main areas on the bond information characteristic, and you can give this. We also can given the score and the rated and the weight rated is for in order to select the bond issuer, narrative or technical proposal, and green, and also general firm information. So that the score given. And so far we have been received 7 applications for this program, first batch that we have launched. So one is on 4 sectors: energy, green building, clean transport, and smart agriculture. And the request is around 140 million within this 4 sectors. And the 7 proposal that we have received from the issuer, I will not go over details. So first one is called AMRED. They are financial service. They're looking at to support on working capital, expand the business, and support on social project 40% and 60% of green project that, and the request for capacity building, you know, and identify the green stuff on the lending portfolio, and also bond structuring is then aligned with this taxonomy that they request from them. And the second company is called EcoBat Energy Investment Quality, and they're focused mainly on circular economies, and they're looking for expand their business portfolio, and they also request for our program. And the third one is also related to green building, that they are like the construction service, energy efficiency, and MEP and ESCO, the model that they're working in Cambodia, and they looking for their to scale the business in Cambodia. And the fourth one is Golden Tree, related to green building, that they have been the first one issue in Cambodia. They're looking to issue again, so that's why they request us our support. And number 5 is Phnom Penh Special Economic Zone. They are real estate. They are also the special zone that they're looking for the support from our programs on zone development in order to be green, and also refinancing on their existing portfolio that's not green. So they want to turn the normal business into green stuff. And number 6 is called Veryword. They are clean transportation. They are EV manufacturing and service on battery swapping in Cambodia. So they also apply for our bond program in Cambodia. And number 7 is about clean energy solution. They do like clean cooking and carbon offset, that the product they offer, and they also request for the support from our program. So the 7 applications so far, and after we do very detailed among our consortium based on, you know, this is the experience that we went through the process, and we given a very consideration, and, you know, given the very technical score and given here. So we selected 3 issuers, AMRED and Golden Tree and Phnom Penh Special Economic Zone, that we are selected, and the other 2 is shortlisted, and we shortlist 2. With that, we're going to support them different ways, not in our program, because we have priority in our program. And the TA so far, we support them is on GGI and SCAP. We provide, you know, one-on-one session, bond framework development, and SPO cost, and also roadshow support, and market sounding network of investor. And as EOC, the support and endorsement approved the bond issuance in Cambodia, and CGIF, ADB, Garanco, they looking input support on development of the framework, provision of credit guarantee, and the investment navigation. And this is the action plan that so far, the progress that we have provided in ecosystem to Golden Tree. So we expected that actually the framework is valid because they're gonna do a green bond again. That's the SPO is still valid. So the bond we expected to happen this year. Hopefully it will spill over a little bit for Q1, but I will try our best to get it this year. But it can be challenges in the current situation. And Phnom Penh Economic Zone, we provide TA, and then for they themselves, the framework have to be finished by this year, and they really, at the moment, they have been assigned the underwriter, and so now the time frame have been confirmed is in the Q1 would be listed that from Special Economic Zone. And UMRED, this year they're looking for more capacity building, handhold support and then they were looking at Q1 and Q2 or Q3 that they will consider how they will proceed the net for the issuance. So this is about the program, and my slide I can be shared. So if you guys to reading or for reading more and learning more, that happy to share. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samadhi. Very interesting program. Of course, a lot of pipeline development effort led by you guys. Very helpful in understanding how sustainable finance programs could look like in the initial stages when we're developing this program, particularly in the case of LDCs. Thank you for sharing those slides, Samadhi. We do have a set of questions that we come back to, probably to you or to Shomi at a later stage. For now, maybe we turn to Diana. Diana, could you please share your screen for your set of presentation?
Sorry. Okay, can you see it? And I will make it bigger. Okay. All right, great. And hopefully you can't see my notes either, as I have it in presenter view. Great. Well, thank you very much, Gulshan, for the introduction. I'm Deanna Morris. I'm leading some of our climate finance work at UNESCAP. And we have a very strong partnership with GGGI, which we've been working across multiple countries in Sri Lanka, in Cambodia specifically, and also working with Samadhi on the presentation he just provided. So it's great to see some of our joint work being presented here. For those of you who aren't familiar with ESCAP, let me just quickly give you a very high-level overview. ESCAP's the largest intergovernmental platform of the UN serving in the Asia-Pacific region. Our member states cover everything from Russia to Papua New Guinea, so it's a very large region. And our focus is on supporting member states in achieving the SDGs. And as financing is really underpins the ability to finance and subsequently achieve the SDGs, we have a work stream and a dedicated team supporting sustainable finance. And that's one of the teams that I work on. One of the things that Gulshan had asked me to do is just give a brief presentation in terms of ESCAP's work, what we're doing on sustainable finance, I think is an example for yourselves to see some of the other areas that other agencies are working. From our side, one of the things I just wanted to highlight is the recent publication of our Financing for Development report. This year's publication was on sustainable finance, bridging the gap in Asia Pacific, and the focus was very much specifically focused on climate action. And the aim of the report was really to examine the trends, challenges, opportunities that policymakers, regulators, and also the private sector face in Asia Pacific, with the aim to really spur action to move towards regional sustainability and to highlight the consequences of various policy and financing choices of governments. So as part of this, we also have put together a As part of the report, it has 10 principles for action to accelerate sustainable finance. You'll find that if you scan the code, there's a quite detailed description in the executive summary that goes through all of those action points, which are quite useful. And I'll go through those in the next slide here. But before going to that, I just did want to highlight some of the figures from Asia Pacific, and this is kind of the key figure. Of course, it's a 100-page report, so there's a lot of data in it that I think would be very useful. But the key aspect here is just how big the financing gap is. Of course, Asia Pacific has been able to generate increased mobilization of resources towards climate finance over the last 5-6 years. And that's amounted to $183.7 billion. But even if this does continue to grow at a 12% rate annually as it has, we're far below the needs that are required to fill the financing gap for the transition, and particularly in terms of the energy transition. So that's just one of the key points that I wanted to raise there. But in terms of some of the key principles for action, we've divided these into government and regulator actions and private sector actions. In terms of government regulator actions, some of these are quite, I think, low-hanging and easy, particularly development of NDC financing strategies. Of course, all countries do have NDCs, but not all of them have financing strategies behind the NDCs, or have even calculated the cost for NDCs. So this is something that definitely is required. Also, in terms of leveraging regulation to shift capital to climate action, regulators do need to move towards consistent taxonomies and roadmaps across countries, and this can really create a better equal playing field across among countries. And then, of course, the commonality of data. This is a consistent challenge that we face as development partners, but also in terms of the countries themselves. In terms of the private sector side, of course, leveraging risk capital, particularly through MDBs and DFIs, investment in project preparation. This is a weakness, and I think we'll probably discuss this a bit in the discussion coming up. So I'll move to the final slide in terms of our particular work streams, and I'll give you some examples of some of the work that we're undertaking. At a high level, there's several teams of us working on this initiative, on this topic, and it falls into different categories. So one of those categories is financing the just energy transition. I'm sure you're all aware of the JETPs. This is something that we're also working on at SCAP, enabling sustainable finance considerations for financial sector services, and I'll go into that in a minute, and financing nature-based solutions and green project pipelines. So some of the key kind of tangible things that I can maybe highlight for you is our work, particularly with LDCs, so least developed countries, on capital market development, particularly focused on thematic bond issuance. We do have some joint programs here with GGGI on this, and are supporting countries beyond the joint countries with GGGI as well. And this is focused on both sovereign issuance and also private issuance. In terms of sovereign issuance, Bhutan is one where we're supporting their sustainability bond issuance. We have developed a tool that allows for the development of the bond framework. And this is, pretty consistent text that goes across the frameworks. But the tool really enables the government to make the decisions on what elements of the framework will be there, on the use of proceeds, and really takes them through the decision-making process for that. This was a big lesson learned from some of our previous experience, where it was more kind of in our hands to develop the framework and hand it over to the government, and it really needs to be government-led. So this is a tool to really enable that process. Similarly, we're using this also for the Bond Accelerator. We're going to have some things coming up in Cambodia with Samedi and Shomi's team in the next few months, and that tool will also be used there for the private sector. Also, in terms of debt sustainability, this is becoming an issue across the globe. More than 50 countries are in debt distress right now. And this is where we're looking at debt for climate swaps as an option. From SCAP's side, we do also have a particular look at debt for climate in addition to kind of the Ecuador type deal, which I know GGGI has supported, we're also looking at it through a bilateral process of swaps with Annex II countries as part of their commitments to achieve the $100 billion for under the Paris Agreement. So this is a bit of a different approach from the traditional swap approach, but it does allow Annex II countries to look at countries debtor countries that are in distress and look at different options for realigning that. And finally, the banking, green banking sector support. We're doing risk modeling and banking sector analysis to support central banks in developing policies and roadmaps for greening the banking sector. We're launching a program right now in Mongolia on this, and are also supporting the Central Bank of Cambodia to support a roadmap on that as well. So I'll stop there and happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Diana. At GGGI, we really enjoy working with ESCAP. We share a strong bond, and a number of projects that were explained by Diana, we are co-designing them, and we exchange a lot of notes in terms of the market dynamics and the way our project stakeholders look at the programs that we are trying to develop. So thank you for sharing that, Diana. Really appreciate your introduction and to inform everybody on the work that UNESCAP is doing on the sustainable finance track. So I guess we're doing good on time. We would get straight into the panel discussion. Diana, just to keep the flow going, probably the first question over to you. This is to understand if you can share with us the challenges that you face in designing a robust sustainable finance program. You know, you handle the entire portfolio at the UNESCAP. So what are the challenges that you have within your portfolio? And then if you can share with us some of the solutions on how do you kind of, what are the key measures that you take to overcome some of these challenges that you have? Would you?
Sure. Thanks so much, Gulshan. Well, there's a range of challenges, I would say. I would say the first thing is, particularly when we're talking about capital markets, the level of development of the markets that we're working in, particularly when we're looking at LDCs. So, for example, Cambodia is a perfect example. We're working directly with GGGI, both with the Ministry of Economy and Finance and also private sector for issuance, both for sovereign and private sector issuances. In terms of the sovereign issuance, they've had one issue overall. And then secondly, there's about 9 issuances on the exchange in Cambodia. Only one has been green, and that was just launched last year. So the level of capital market development is quite low, particularly when a sovereign is looking to issue a new bond. This is similar to Bhutan as well, where we're working. You know, they've issued one bond, actually through ESCAP support, and now they're looking at issuing a sustainability bond, which is perfectly fitting for a country like Bhutan. But that is a challenge when, you know, it's not only developing the complexities around the green aspects, but also all of the market building aspects as well. Particularly also having local service providers in the market in terms of credit rating agencies, things like that. These are challenges that we face. I would say one of the other challenges that is particularly persistent, and this is something that we hear on both sides, from the government and from the private sector, and then from the investors as well. From the investors, we hear there's no project pipeline. You know, we have all this money, we want to invest, but you know, there's no pipeline. From the government and the project side, we say, oh, there's all these projects that we want funding for, but no one wants to invest in them. The challenge there is really, I think, meeting the, well, 2 things. One is the risk criteria for meeting the investors' risk tolerance. And 2 also is just being able to communicate a project in a way that is interesting, tangible, risk averse to the investment community. So this is something that we've realized, I think, through the consistent work that we've been doing, and we've now developed a project around this actually to support the packaging of projects, identification, and being able to communicate that to investors. And this also stems somewhat from the work that we're doing in Cambodia, having developed partnerships with Garant Co. as a guarantor, ADB, of course, and CGIF as well. So being able to kind of bring all of these partnerships together and then use that to leverage a project pipeline. I'll stop there. I have more, of course, to say on this, but I'll stop there for others.
Thanks, Diana. No, a very interesting point that you raised, particularly on the understanding of the people who are holding the project and the investors. I think that's a good gap that GDGI fills in with our Better Bankable program work that we do at GDGI to try and improve the bankability. But you raise an even better point on the communication aspect. How do you package this in a way that the investors can understand? That's a very interesting point that I take from your dialogue, and happy to discuss with you on how we can collaborate. There's one speaker who's been rather patient and kindly waiting, and that is Ishani. Ishani, I have the next set of questions coming over to you. So Ishani, it would be great if you could share what are the key steps that the National Development Bank at Sri Lanka, what are the steps that you are following to get ready for the thematic bond issuance? Is there any particular advice that you would like to give the other development banks or private sector players? You notice that there's a bunch of projects that we're discussing in Cambodia. Happy to learn from you. Over to you, Ishani. You're on mute. Can you unmute, Ishani? Yeah.
Thanks, Gulshan. Thanks for highlighting the fact that it's mute. Basically, Sri Lanka, as you all know, is somewhat in early stage of the bond issuance framework, and even particularly in relation to green bond issuance. But I would say in terms of its capital markets, as Diana highlighted, in certain regions that she faced the fact that markets are not developed. But however, thankfully, the Sri Lankan capital markets are fairly developed, so that the regulators and regulations are all in place. Now, in that backdrop, I would say even the organizations and the issuers are still somewhat at very preliminary stage of their learning curve. So we as NDB Bank also had to kind of do our part of groundwork and the background work to get ready. So we had 4 steps to go forward. The first was basically building the capacity ourselves. Now, for example, when we picked up a team to drive the whole thing within the organization, the team themselves have to first develop capacity in the knowledge and the background and so on. So once that's done, then it's basically creating awareness within the organization, because green concepts were getting very popular, but green bonds was somewhat totally a novel concept yet. So then the second step was kind of creating awareness within the organization, creating interest and getting the buying in from probably the top management and the board of directors as to why we should be doing it, and the need and the benefits that the organization would have at large. Then the third step was basically forming a proper cross-functional team to run it across the organization, from treasury to finance, because a bond issuance would naturally be involved in the regulatory side, the legal, treasury, all that. So now, as of now, there is a team formed cross-functional who is very active, driving the entire concept across the bank. Thereafter, like the process of preparation of documentation and so on.
Yeah.
What basically supported us was that the fact that NDB had quite a close network and a relationship with all the multilaterals like IFC, ADBs, Proparco, FMOs, and the fact that Norfund was is also currently a 10% shareholder of ours, helped us to have our internal processes already designed to somewhat expected level for us to quickly start this process internally, Gulshan. So basically that is what we did at our end.
No, thank you so much, Ishani. It is really it is really important to understand how mature the Sri Lankan capital market is, while of course the Sri Lankan government is facing some economic challenges. It's very important to also understand, and thanks for highlighting that some of these MDBs are already invested in Sri Lanka and working with you, like you said. We know that we are aware that Norford has 10% stakes in your books. That's a confidence. That's a confidence that needs to be seen also outside. That, you know, of course, while we are supporting the sovereign, but private sector is doing their part. And I think thanks for being the champion. Also, the timing is right to doing the preparation work, because, you know, as the IMF and other discussions goes through, there would be a good opportunity to look at more climate finance coming into Sri Lanka. The second set of questions that I have is to understand from you, Ishani, is how important, according to you, is to align the framework that you develop, the sustainable finance framework that you develop, to your existing bank's procedure, rather than just reinventing the whole wheel and creating additional procedures and processes.
So, Gulshan, basically, what our principle was that whatever we do should be, it should make economic sense for us, and it should be efficient in terms of resource utilization. Yeah. And particularly in terms of processes. So as I mentioned before, since the capital markets were somewhat developed, and NDB as a financial institution, regulated financial institution, has been from time to time using these capital markets to source funds, we already had a framework in place. Although it was not bonds per se, the debenture issuance was something which is very close to us, which we are familiar with. So we thought we should ideally be using the existing framework already in place within the organization in one hand. On other hand, the regulators themselves have laid down the rules and regulations, particularly the Central Bank of Sri Lanka and the Securities Exchange Commission, in terms of as the regulator for the stock market activities. So for us to make economic sense, we need to make things simple and not be reinventing all over again, which might be an onerous task, and then using a lot of effort and resources. So while we made it economically viable and sensible for us to use the existing processes, we also wanted it to be efficient process. Because if we started designing everything all over again, one thing, it will take quite a lot of time. So what basically how GGGI helped us is, like at the beginning, you all, Gulshan, understood and made efforts to understand what exactly the internal the framework and the systems are, and the framework for the issuance of green bonds are being designed using the existing processes, procedures, and the systems and framework. So which means that we can simply ride on what is existing and make things faster, rather than trying to make everything totally new, which will consume resources, time, and may not even be economically sensible for us to do everything all over again. So GGI, in that sense, we are thankful, Gulshan, that you didn't want to do everything new. You tried and made effort to understand what is already existing and built on it for us to come this far.
Thank you, Ishani. Appreciate that. But you also raised a very important point. Something that we can all learn from is that banks do have experience in issuing debentures, for example, right? That is a good cue to take and go back to the banks that we are talking to in other countries to say, well, of course, it may look like a new process that we're bringing in, or it may look like a whole new, business arm maybe to kind of, look at sustainable finance in that light. But that parallel that you draw, Ishani, is very important and something that we take note of. That and we can, when we are talking to the banks, we can kind of, take that dialogue forward. Thank you for sharing that bit, and appreciate the collaboration that we've had with NDB, and look forward to issuing with you in the coming months or years. Thank you. Thanks so much. I'm turning to Shomi for one set of questions just targeted to Shomi. Shomi, With reference to least development countries, I mean, of course, there's a lot of work that has gone into the work that so much of hard work, it's not being spoken about so much, but in the context of Cambodia, starting from a small project, you put in so much effort in this less mature finance market. Can you please emphasize on the role of the development partners in creating an enabling environment on the back of which a sovereign, can issue?
Thanks, Krishan, for the questions. And I'm happy to share some of the insights that I have gained from our own experience in Cambodia in terms of thematic bond initiative. Can you hear me okay? Good. Yeah, so just to give you a context on like how small the bond market is in Cambodia, as pointed out Gulshan, the total bond market that is listed is around 200 million, and out of 200 million, only 3 million is green bond issuance mentioned by Deanna. So if you actually look at like the achievement that we have gained through our Cambodia Sustainability Bond Accelerator program, is that through the call for expression of interest, the potential issuers who have like submit the application, the total amount of the bond value was around 145 million. So you can see that was almost like 70% of the total bond market. That's the story that we have created. That's the impact, initial impact that we have created from our program. The way that I see the role of international organization or development partners in terms of promoting sustainable financing, especially promoting the thematic bond, I would say there are 3 ways that I want to highlight. The first one is the paradigm shift. So when we first started this program, one of the most frequent questions that I received from our partners and potential issuers and investor was that what is thematic bond? So there was a very limited understanding and also knowledge about what thematic bond is. And because the concept is like so new that people thought that is something like totally new, which is not. This is financing instruments that can support already existing projects or the green component of your business. So this is just changing the way that you see your business, that sustainability of your business, green component, social component of your business is becoming much more important. And we are creating the momentum to bring in more sustainable and responsible investment. So the message that we are not creating something totally new, or we're not reinventing the wheel, but we are changing the paradigm of the investment industry, that we're creating the ecosystem for more responsible and sustainable investment was what we actually achieved through our program. Second role that we play was, I would say, the institutional support. I think Deanna also mentioned briefly on this. Because we had such a strong team, we call it like a super team. We were the team of the government counterpart, Cambodia Security Exchange Regulator, and GGGI, UNESCAP, CGIF, and Geronco. So this like 5 entities come together, and we joined the partnership with the same goal of promoting thematic bond in Cambodia. Because we formed such a strong partnership that create the story in the market. And then people start paying more attention to what the thematic bond is, the sustainable bond is. And then there has been increased knowledge about this, increased capacity. And through this program, because we joined in together to provide this institutional support, we were able to provide the technical support to the potential issuers, and in terms of identification of the green projects. And we are also helping them with the investment roadshow, and we will be also helping them with the second party opinions and entire process of the bond issuance, that we will be there to provide the technical support. And third component that we play a very important role is the investment mobilization. So because the market is very small, one of the biggest challenge that issuers face is investment mobilization. So increasing the confidence of the investor in the bond market itself, and then the green bond is still lacking. So we are in the process of not just increasing the investors' confidence, but we also try to find a way to close the deal through the guarantee scheme. So that's why Guaranco is with us in case that the issuer needs a guarantee provider to set up a strong financing mechanism. So our job is in two ways: to increase the investors' confidence, as well as to strengthen the financial sustainability of the bond itself. So to summarize, paradigm shift. Second one is strong institutional support. And third one is supporting investment mobilizations are three key components that we have been providing to the bond market, especially green and sustainable bond market in Cambodia.
Thank you, Shomi. Thank you for championing the work of sustainable finance in the Cambodian market. Of course, we're great partners in UNESCAP. I completely believe working with Diana is amazing. The team is fantastic. I'm sure the collaboration will meet the objectives that you state in your presentation, and we'll be able to take things forward. Terry, I want to look at you, particularly in the context of the trust fund. Terry, would you be able to throw some light on what exactly would you be looking for, let's say, in a project that needs to be supported by the trust fund? I see that you have a large goal, a big objective, a big ambitious goal that you want to achieve with the trust fund. So it'd be nice for all the participants. I know that there are a few participants also joining from Africa, maybe not just the Asian context, but what is it that you'd be looking for in your engagement notes to fund some of the GGGI work in the member countries? Over to you, Terry.
Yeah, thank you. I guess my screen is frozen, but can you hear me loud and clear? Just to check.
We can hear you perfectly fine. And now we can actually also see you. So it's all good.
Okay, sure. Maybe it's just frozen for a moment. So the kind of project worldwide, not in the context of Asia, also in the context of Africa and Latin America, I think the kind of eligibility criteria that the Global Trust Fund Board is looking for is, regardless of the location, we are looking to have the maximized impact on climate change mitigation. So the issuance of, let's say, thematic bond will have to directly contribute to climate change mitigation or adaptation. That even better if that's aligned with the sustainable development goals. The bond proceeds have to be used, of course, exclusively to the labeled projects, the green or social, in the case of sustainability bond. In the case of less thematic, I would say sustainability linked bond, the key performance indicators, or we call it sustainable performance targets, SPT in short, that have to be perfectly aligned with the key performance indicators such as reduction of greenhouse gases. So though in terms of quantitative numbers that the board is looking for is all that contributes to climate change adaptation and mitigation. And it's also regarded as mandatory that the second party opinion or at least third party verification has to be in place to make sure that the bond frameworks are really rightly aligned with all the standards that is accepted by the investors and the institutions worldwide. So that's kind of a short answer I can give. Of course, transparency, the justification as to why this has to be intervened in terms of bond issuance, yes. But I think the most important thing is the climate change mitigation itself.
Brilliant. Thanks, Terry. Thanks for the clarification. I'm sure people will benefit from your explanation. Just one last question, maybe anybody can pick it up, or otherwise we would need to identify somebody. is Diana raised a very good number, $190 billion, particularly in the context of Asia, which of course is not enough. This is one layer of sustainable finance. There's of course other layers on carbon finance and other layers of climate finance and others, and all of it combined, I think we all agree is not going to be enough. I wanted to ask a question, particularly in the context of just energy transition. If anybody could like to share your opinion on how that particular pipeline, not just the jet piece. I know you, Diana, you mentioned about jet piece in particular, but there are other programs around energy transition mechanism, which was announced at G20 last year with in Indonesia. So the question really is about, do you feel that capital markets, money raised from capital markets could play a major role in supporting just energy transition? Your thoughts on that? Anybody? If not, maybe it's going to be you, Diana, if you could take that question.
Sure. I think that there is a potential. I think all of the financing mechanisms that are there right now and future innovative financing mechanisms that can be identified are going to be needed. So yeah, the answer in short is yes. I think capital markets can play a role to support it. The challenge, I think, right now is the fact that interest rates are rising. We are seeing a lot of debt distress across Asia Pacific. In terms of financing those types of models, particularly in developing countries, again, going back to that whole risk mitigation. So when you're talking about high interest rates and then on top of that needing a guarantee, it's just making it more and more expensive for the issuer itself. So I think this is where we have to find alternatives, but it is currently one of the good project or good opportunities that we can use and leverage the capital markets and with the tools that we have on hand. So.
Totally, Diana. One tool in our toolbox, more needed. Cannot agree more in terms of what needs to be done and how much. It's all on us, I guess. We take it upon us and we keep making efforts. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. This has been an excellent session. I think this is about it. This is the wrap up. I've tried to cover and provide comments that I had to make and when you were talking just after the questions were asked. So I don't really have a sum up at the moment, but thank you for making time. It was lovely talking to all of you guys and learning so much in the session. I would send out a thank you note later on, but really appreciate your time today. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
you.
Thanks everybody. Thanks.
Bye.